like to show you my presentation for my final UGS project. I'm going to also hide myself so that you can see the screen in its full glory. I will also be talking about the evolution of sexuality as portrayed by this painting of Lady Agnew of Locknell from John Singer Sargent and the cultural influence he had on the rest of society. And as we go through this timeline of the expression of women in media from 18th to 19th century France, which this portrait was created in, up until now. From 18th and 19th century France, as the time period I most researched in, a woman's place was by a man's side. This is very prominent up until about around the past 50 years, this idea of having a dominant versus submissive man and woman, but you can also see it in portraits back in the day. On this side is a portrait of the Dehaney family, and you can already tell the stark differences of the man and the woman. The active role of the man standing and looking directly into the portrait, while the woman is sitting passively, her body not even faced towards the painter and looking through the side. The posture even too, the woman is standing very upright, very strong, and very rigid, as the man is a lot more relaxed, but still standing strong and firm in his position. The attitudes as well, the man is a very straight-faced, but also dominant look in his eye, and the woman has a slight smile on her face to make sure that she doesn't look as crude or a mean woman, as it's not nice to be mean when you are a woman. And finally, the clothing that is even portrayed, the baby and the mom both have pastel colors, which is also a sign of femininity, while the man has very dark neutral colors, black, white, and tan. And so, here is a dramatic contrast to this. This is another painting by Sargent called Madame Gautreau, but it was also changed to Madame X after the Lord Gautreau saw how scandalous it was and did not want her name to be included. The strong posture that she holds with her arm even facing the side to even show even more skin, the dark and bold clothing she's wearing, a gorgeous black dress with gold straps. In an original version of this portrait, her strap was down, but Lord Gautreau made Sargent repaint it so that she wasn't as scandalous and promiscuous. The minimal clothes she's wearing as well, you can see her collarbone, her shoulders, which is a big no-no back in the day. So how does this compare to the previous portray women in this society? And how we look at today, we have actresses like Kim Kardashian, Penelope Cruz, Jennifer Lopez, who all are used to displaying their assets for magazine covers, social media, and advertising. And so the big question I wanted to ask was, how was the idea of women in society changed from 18th century France up until today? So we have to focus on the duality of media. Back in 18th century France, women were described as pure, and so they have a positive obsession with the idea of virtue, chastity, and morality. They were highly supervised and carefully watched to avoid falling into the wrong crowd and being seductive by the wrong type of man. And in contrast to that today, a woman's goal now is to be seductive. We see many advertisements showing women in barely anything, as you have to wear less and flirt more in order to get with a man. The only similarity between these two ideas is that women are still displayed as objects and rather as the individual being that they actually are. So, focusing on the artist who created the two portraits, Madame X and Lady Agnew, was John Singer Sargent, who was born in Florence, Italy in 1856 to an American family. So that is why he is an American portrait painter. He studied there and as well as in Paris, France. And he lived in London in 1885 at the height of his career. Some of his inspirations were Frans Hals, Velázquez, and Monet, as you can tell from a self-portrait brushstrokes and their ideas are. He also studied art in Florence and in Paris under Carolus Duran, which had a big impact on who he ended up being as a painter. Some of his more famous works were, of course, Madame X, Lady Agnew of Lucknow on the first slide, as well as famous portraits of Roosevelt, Rockefeller, and Chamberlain. And so what he wanted to do was give a glimpse into the aristocratic life of the time period. As you can tell from the above painting called Mosquito Nets, he tried to core aspects of French modernism. This was a device used to try to stop the mosquitoes from biting women as they were sitting outside or in their own home. He also often used decadent qualities to give a very sense of depth and complexity to his work. As you can tell from his brushstrokes, how the women are sitting, they're not posed. He wanted to give a very candid point of life. And so he was quoted saying, "Women don't ask you to make them beautiful, but you can make them feel, you can make them wanting you to do so all the time." In light of having the perfectionism placed onto women. The pervasive nature of Sargent's attachment to the turn-of-century colors, as displayed by the landscape with goat herd, with the understanding of the time period he lived in, made him such a unique artist that he's studied today as dermatology. Lady Agnew of Lucknow, a little biographical information on her, was a well-known socialite in the second half of the 19th century. Her real name is Gertrude Agnew, who married a lawyer named Noel and went to many parties with him. So many so that she met John through mutual friends at a dinner party and asked him to paint her. We are unsure of how much he was paid, but it was most likely around 700 pounds, which was the rule at the time. And this portrait earned Sargent a lasting reputation. And so Sargent's work was seen as very radical back in his time period. The fluid brushstrokes and layers that he includes into his signature depth made Lady Agnew look so beautiful and so engaging. The broad strokes on her dress versus the quick stroke on the whole painting give her a very luxurious background. And what's also very striking is her facial expression. She gives a very engaged look, which is the first thing that draws you into this painting. It's a celebration of both her as an individual woman and the socialite life that she lived. It's very typical of other Sargent paintings for her. So Agnew may have specifically wished to have Sargent paint her because of his scandalous, fashionable reputation and his portrayal of women back in the day. Her posture is also cross-legged, which was vastly different from the time period, as it was seen rude and also scandalous, to show a bit of the ankle that rises up in her dress. And so even feeds into this idea of the scandalous woman in a modern society. The differences between these two paintings was Madame X was standing with her bust slightly forward and her gaze away, and she was also a French woman. And Lady Agnew, she was seated in a very relaxed tone, kind of more like a dominant man, and looks more frankly towards the painter and the viewer as a Scottish woman. And so, did the portraits of Lady Agnew and Madame X help push reform the sexualization of women? Absolutely. I believe that Sargent's work was revolutionary for its time period, and with paintings like these, women were able to express themselves fully. And so, I'm going to make myself visible again. It was very nice having you for class. I really enjoyed every aspect of this, and I would not have been introduced to these two works had it been in your class. I love this class with all of my being, and thank you so much for having a wonderful semester with me. And